All right. Hi, Victoria. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Yes, of course. I'm so glad to have you here with us today. For those of you watching, this is Victoria. She came to us. Actually, it was April 1st. I had to look up because I knew it was spring, but I couldn't remember.
And we were chatting quickly about timelines, and that's funny you had that, written, because that was it. It was like, okay, it's the start of a month. I was ready to go. So yeah.
Yep. You were like, this is it. So Victoria came to us in April and did the Fertile Method and worked through that program. And she has been gracious enough to join us today and share her story because I think it'll be a really big inspiration for so many of you out there who are trying to get and stay pregnant and maybe battling with age or other fertility issues. So again, Victoria, thank you so much. I feel super special because this is actually the first time I've ever seen you on camera. I don't know if you realize that. So what's that?
I was so shy for some reason during the whole thing. So you're right. I'm finally making myself.
You were. It's so funny. So obviously worked with you for several months, have talked to you on the phone, have talked to you even through Zoom and coaching calls, but never, ever would you turn on your camera. So I feel doubly blessed that you're willing to be here and share your story and show up on camera for everybody.
You probably wondered, you asked me to do this and you thought, is she going to show her face? What's wrong with her?
I did wonder a little. I was like, is she gonna? But here you are, so amazing. So I feel even more fortunate that you're gracing us with your camera and your presence. So why don't we just start and let everybody get to know you a little bit about you and your background and kind of how you came about joining our world.
Sure. So as you said, I guess it was, April of last year that I joined. But so prior to that, and a little about myself. We'll start with my age because that's kind of the big thing, the big part of the discussion here. I'm 41. I had, a great career throughout my 20s, a busy career. I was in professional theater, so dancer, singer, actor. Again, the irony of my not wanting to come on camera.
Cracks me up.
But so that said, I was living that type of life as a lot of women do now, busy career, not focused whatsoever on marriage and kids at that point. And then reached my 30s and was ready to kind of make that shift and hope for some more kind of normalcy in my life. And then was looking to kind of settle down, marriage and kids. And then as we all often experience, life doesn't go as planned. And so years went by and I had a marriage that wasn't successful and, moved along. And all of a sudden, as it does happen, you are approaching your late 30s and thinking how did I get here? This wasn't the plan. And I don't know how this, went the way it did, but I was still hopeful. And I did have some guidance from a doctor, thankfully, and people saying, you should maybe freeze your eggs. And so I did do that at age 38. Which I'm glad I did. It was kind of an insurance policy. So, but I think I'd always hoped, time would get to where I'd meet someone and still have the chance to have a natural pregnancy and everything, and had that as a backup. And so then fortunately, just before COVID hit, a little while before, met someone and, everything great, and we had kids, and that was the plan, and everything else at once at that age, kind of fast forward. Mm-hmm. So we, as everyone does, it seems usually, and I still wanted to just try naturally, so we did. And it always, I think for everyone, feels like it takes forever, but looking back, it was only about 4 or 5 months before I got pregnant. So that was super exciting and scary and all the things when it happens. But and then that ended in a miscarriage, unfortunately. So I was almost 10 weeks when I miscarried. And I mean, that's not a pleasant experience for anyone.
No, it's awful.
It's horrible. And it's before you've gone through it. I mean, of course, women dread it. And then when you do go through it, it's just an awful experience, emotionally and physically and everything. But I feel like I dealt with it well, but I think, you're back to the drawing board and you've already kind of taken the time to get there. So it's defeating in a lot of ways. So I went along, but I think after the miscarriage, I started to experience kind of pretty intense cyclical headaches And, it really made me realize like I wasn't back to normal. I felt off. And so I think that's what, propelled me to start Googling, researching, trying to figure out what this was. I mean, we'll talk more about this in some other questions probably, but I came from like more of a natural background. My mother was always kind of more inclined that way as opposed to kind of going through the medical system. So I felt like I knew a lot in general, and was also like a very healthy person, had a good, balanced diet and everything. So I didn't feel like I was way off track, but just something wasn't quite right. So, I kind of started to look into things, and at some point would have seen Kia and Melissa and thought, they look like they have the same kind of mindset as me, and they clearly know what they're talking about. But like we all do, you think, okay, I don't know, should I do this? And okay, it's an investment. And anyway, so then we continued to try, and I got pregnant again. But it was a chemical pregnancy, so it was very quick, where, what was positive a few days later was negative, and it didn't happen. And I think that was just my breaking point. I thought like, okay, I'm getting pregnant. That's a positive thing. And that's what people remind you of after a miscarriage. But I was like, this isn't working. Something's not quite right. And, I think I always had that fear there in the back of my mind. I'm old.
Right. We were just talking about how old the fertility industry makes you feel too.
Yeah.
It's like always there in your head. Every time you see a doctor, every time you do anything or Google anything, you're old.
Yeah. So, and I was just telling you too, I felt almost like ashamed in a way. Like I thought, who am I to think I can still make this happen naturally? This is probably, I don't know, the more time that went by, the more time I thought I had wasted on not just going directly to IVF. So I didn't know if what I was attempting to make happen was truly possible. I was, there's more and more information out there telling you that yes, it is, but you doubt it. And you're just, it's that thing, no matter what, you feel up against the clock, even though you're telling yourself to be calm. The longer it takes, the less calm you are. It's just like, you can't help those feelings. So anyway, then April 1st came along, and I'd had that pregnancy, and I thought, what, enough is enough. And I just knew, I felt like I was missing something. I felt like, even though I think I have a lot of tools and I think I know quite a bit about this, I wanted to know what I might be missing. And I didn't want to waste any more time trying to figure it out. And I think I just reached that breaking point where I was like, I also knew too that, emotionally, and it's draining as a couple trying to make it happen.
Yes.
And I just felt like, what, even for my mental sanity, I think I might really enjoy being in this group of women and having a focus and having this path, this course that I can follow, and it will give me something else in my day that will not only just make me feel better, but hopefully lead to pregnancies. So you came along, and thank goodness.
Well, look at that. It was meant to be, right? And you did. You came in like April 1st, and I remember you just came in with a bang. You didn't show your face, but like you did it all. You were always like there in the background. You were always, commenting, letting us know, like if you had a win, like the smallest win, you were like, this is happening, and you would be so excited. So you definitely have kind of that type A, like determined personality.
It's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to listen to everything they put out there. So yeah,
I'm just not going to show my face, but I'm going to listen. So that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. What were you've shared some struggles with us. What do you think were like the biggest factors that led you to kind of seek out our help? Like you talked about like the chemical pregnancy being the tipping point. Was it the losses? Was it like your stuff around your cycle? Like what made you say, okay, I've got to seek some help with this? Because I think sometimes women don't know what point that is, like when it's time to get some help and invest in some help, right?
Well, and I think that's it. I was saying that before. I think it's so different for everyone. Everyone has different challenges around fertility. I think I was very fortunate to not be someone who was told they had endometriosis or you know, when I'd been checked through a fertility clinic, they didn't come back with anything negative, like my numbers were good and things like that for my age. And so
for your age, yes, that age thing.
Yes. So, you know, all of that was fine. But I think, kind of like I said, for me, it was a time thing. I think the biggest, like misconception is that it's sort of like, you know, when you want to get pregnant, well, if you speak to a doctor or not, people are like, just try and it'll happen. But the thing is, like, you do want to prepare your body for it. And if you can avoid a miscarriage, and if you can avoid going down some of that painful road of even just the time of making it happen, you know, all the better. And so, like, when I look back, I kind of think, you know, I wish I'd sought something like this out from the very beginning, just to prepare my body for pregnancy. And so I think when I realized that I'd miscarried and then had the setback of a chemical pregnancy, that's what made me go, like, enough's enough. I just want to know now what, you know, someone like yourself, like professionals, would tell you to do, like what has proven to work. So I think that was my tipping point, is I was just like, I don't want to be guessing anymore. I want to have like some firm kind of goals and steps to take to get myself there. And yeah, I think it was things like the headaches. Like, it was so bothersome monthly to be going through that. And I think I'm quite aware of my body. And so I was very aware that that was not something I'd experienced before, and it was not normal. And I didn't want to be going through that monthly. And it just really pointed out to me that something wasn't quite right. So yeah, I felt like I've got to get that in balance, which obviously will probably be putting my body in the right place for pregnancy to happen. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. You made a couple of really good points. And one of them, I love how you said you need to prepare your body for pregnancy, because I think in our society, we have this misconception that you want to have a baby, you decide to grow a family, and you just go, boom, do the deed, and you're all good to go, you know? And while that does happen, like, I feel like as women, we spend a good chunk of our life like trying to avoid pregnancy, right? Totally. And then, so you think, if I've had to work this hard to avoid it, the second I stop working so hard to avoid it, it's just going to happen. And that's just not the truth. It's not the reality for a lot of women. Yes, it does happen that way, and that's amazing for those women. But there's a lot of us out there that's not the case. And especially, you know, we've lived life. Like, we've had fun. We've had stressful careers. We went to college and partied. Like, we did all of the things. And because of that, we've kind of got to take a step back and prepare our body now, heal some of the hormone, you know, imbalance that we have, and prepare our body for pregnancy. So I think it's so awesome that you mentioned that. Yeah. Because that's something we preach all the time. Like, prepare your body. The better you prepare your body, the easier it is to conceive, and the less likely you are to miscarry, right? Yeah.
And I think at first when I heard that, I thought, oh, you know, you kind of brush it off because you think, well, that won't be me or whatever, you know, it'll be fine. But yeah, in hindsight, you know, looking back, and that's it. I firmly believe I'm pregnant now from the work that I did. And so why not do that before you've even reached all the struggles? Like, why do you have to go through all these difficult steps? It's like, no, pregnancy is a major thing for your body to go through. So it makes complete sense to just, I read something even just yesterday saying, like, you know, so many women, once they're pregnant, do all these great things because they're, you know, they're growing this baby. It's like, but before that happens, you want to be in that position to give it the best, you know, shot.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So true. I just did a masterclass on Tuesday all about egg quality. And that's it. Like, once you're pregnant, like, that part's done. You can't change it, right? It's what you do 120 days before, because that's when the eggs are developing. Yeah. And that's what matters. So yeah, you're so right. Like, as soon as you're pregnant, you're like, let me do everything. Let me eat all these fruits and vegetables. But it's before that it really matters.
And that was news to me. You know, I wasn't aware of that. I mean, you don't look at any of this stuff before you're thinking about getting pregnant. So I was totally unaware. And again, there's more information about that now, like, you know, preparing the eggs. But yeah, I didn't know anything about that. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Good points. So I want to get into a little bit about the changes that happened for you. But first, what, if any, because you're a very decisive, like determined woman. So was there any resistance to coming into the Fertile method? And if so, what was it? And how did you like push through that and make a decision to join?
Yes, for sure there was. And I spoke to Melissa and then still waited a while. Like I remember her being like, so
what are we doing here?
Yeah. I think like for everyone, I mean, even just financially, the cost of, because I think what happens is you're already looking down the road of like, I may be going down this road of IVF. And we all know how costly that is. And we all know, what that entails. And so it's, the cost of your program by no means is out of this world, but it's another thing, right? You've already tried all these things. And then it's another thing that you're thinking like, do I try this also? And I mean, it's not like but just even with like, we talked about supplements and this and that, you're already kind of, and then
so much.
Yeah, you're looking down the road of what could possibly be next. So I think there was a little bit of that, but then, when I overcame that part of it, and not even financially as in like, oh, I can't possibly afford this, but just in the sense of like, where do I put my money towards? Because there is so much out there. So you kind of start to go like, what path do I decide to go down? So I think, that was probably one of the hurdles. And then just, I think a little bit was my sort of, I don't want to say cockiness, but a part of me going like, I feel like I know a lot. I feel like I don't know that I'm going to get anything from this that's really going to be eye-opening for me. I did. And I said that to Melissa. I was like, I knew you guys knew a ton, it wasn't, but I was like, I feel like I'm doing everything. But that was that thing, right? It was that question always. I was like, I think I'm doing everything I could be doing, but I didn't know. I felt like there might be this puzzle piece that I was missing. Right. And then I think that's what hit me is I was like, I don't want to be going forward month after month, constantly wondering like, maybe there's something else I could be, there's something else I could find out.
Right.
So I think those two things, once I worked, through that and got past, some of my, some of the blocks that I had, then I thought like, no, you know what? My biggest thing that I'm hoping for is to avoid IVF. That's how I felt. I didn't want to take all the hormones, for me, it wasn't even financially. I was just like, I just don't want to go through all of that. And as we all know, I think people just assume IVF's the guarantee, like, okay, well, I'll go do that and it'll work, but I'm going to try not to. It's like, but it won't necessarily. It's not a 100% success rate, not even close. And so I just became so determined, still thinking that at my age, at this old age, I could still do that.
As a grandma.
Yeah, exactly. As a geriatric. So I think, then I thought like, you know what, Victoria, that's really what you want, is to be able to have a spontaneous natural pregnancy. So why wouldn't you put your money, your time to a place where you're going to be learning a natural way of going about it, as opposed to taking those next huge, daunting kind of, I just felt so about it all. And ironically, actually, which, I mean, I think I had told you this, but I went through the course and did everything by the book.
By the book.
Yeah.
Literally by the book, she did it.
My family would be like that. My mother was like, okay, you're now in this and you're obsessed. But then I continued with everything, even when the course was done. And I remember having a chat with Melissa at the time going, like I feel really good about what I've learned and I have full belief in it, but I was like, like time's still going by and I'm at this place where just even time-wise, looking ahead, perhaps it's time I start to think about IVF. Even with, even though I'm in a good place and I feel good, I'm still not pregnant. So, and she said, totally your call, of course, but I would just give it a little more time. Just, you've come through it. Now you have a bit of time for your body to kind of stay on this course. Just give it more time. And then sure enough, I was about to turn to IVF. I'd ordered medication even.
I know. I remember you saying that.
It had arrived. I was ready to go just because I thought, okay, this is the next step I need to take. and that was the month I was pregnant. So go figure. And I think that's it. Like my body, I'm sure, was also carrying some stress just thinking about going there. And I think once even I turned mentally to going like, okay, I'm releasing everything. I'm going to take that next step, the step I don't want to take. You know, something probably relaxed in my body, and my body was in a very good place from everything I'd done. And that's when it happened. So pretty good.
Which is amazing. Because you started in April. What month did you get the positive pregnancy?
In August.
In August. So really
September 1st, really. Yeah.
Okay. So to you, like, because when you're trying, every month feels like forever, and going through yet another like kind of heartbreak, month in and month out when you're not pregnant. But in reality, like if you think about like healing your hormones in your reproductive system to be able to go from like 2 miscarriages and everything else to pregnant by September. Well, obviously you were pregnant in August.
Yeah.